Welcome to Hollywood Approved with Stacey. Each episode is an exploration of taste as we dive into the good, the bad, and the unexpected in TV and movies. Tune in for the celebrity guest. Stay tuned for the surprising recommendations. This is Hollywood Approved. Hi everyone, this is Stacey on my own again. They've let me loose another time. I don't know why, but don't worry, Yael will be back next week. But until then, it will be me and our very, very special guest. If you have been one of the lucky ones to have seen Bros already, you will notice this guy as the wonderful character of Steve. And we all love him, and he's fantastic. He's also in the middle, and we are so excited to talk to him about the movies and what he has coming up. It is Brock, and I tell me once he gets on if I say this right, Ciarelli or Ciarelli. We're gonna figure it out. Come on,
That was so close. The first pass was so close.
so close.
Charlelli. You got right.
Charlelli,
So many people miss
Oh,
this CH, but you got it right on the
mhm.
first time. That was great.
Right? Thank you, thank you. I love it, Ciarlelli.
Yeah.
So like,
Quello Italiano.
right? I love it. So I'm so happy and excited that you are on today.
Thank you.
There
Thanks for having
has
me. I appreciate it.
Yes, and I want to know, of course, we got to start with Bros. How did you even get involved with this production?
I auditioned for it two different times, and I think that was the case for a lot of. So I auditioned for it right before the pandemic hit, and made my way up the ladder to like the approvals, and
Mhm.
then shit stopped in the middle of the middle of the track, and then like about a year into it, into the pandemic, then they recast the net after they did a little rewriting, I suppose. Re-auditioned for it and got the role. It was pretty basic story, but still a win. You know what I mean? I the basic
Exactly.
ones are always like, yes, I got it.
Well, it's funny because it's not only that, you auditioned and you got it, but you auditioned in a movie that had every chance to be canceled during the pandemic to because
Totally.
so many were.
Yeah.
And for it to be not only an LGBTQ film, a rom-com, but made by a major studio, put into theaters. That's like a very, very big deal. So I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Congrats,
Thank you,
because
thank you.
that's
I'm so
a
proud of it
whew.
too. I was surprised. I was like, okay, yes, it made it. But then finally seeing the final cut of the movie and how much I laughed.
Mhm.
When you're in it, it's so hard to tell, like, okay, is this actually funny? Will audiences really like it? But then when like, I film it and then they go off and do all they do their editing and they do their stuff, and then I get to watch it with fresh eyes. And I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. Now I'm not surprised they didn't like give it the axe in the middle of the pandemic, because it's true. I
Exactly.
truly think it's that funny. You're laughing every couple of seconds.
So, we gotta talk about Steve. God
We gotta
bless
let's
him.
talk about him. We all have a Steve in our life, I think.
We all have a Steve. There's this fun little TikTok where it's like, do and Steve. And it kind of shows like these really cute couples and then this like person off
That's
to the
sweet.
side that's like,
Oh,
and that's kind of the Steve of it all. It's
of
like we
course.
we take this menage a trois and turn it into a square sum
Yes, I
with
think like
Steve.
yes, I think too, at least for me, I there's been multiple times where there's been a Steve where like I'm having conversations, you're at a party or this or that, and you're having conversations, and then someone just like walks up and they just are like, oh God, can you take the hint? And then there's been times when I've been the Steve as well, and you're like, oh, I don't fit in this dynamic. But I'll try and make it work.
Well, one thing I love about Steve, because it's like at the end of the day, you know what, Steve, shoot your shot. He was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to
Yeah,
have fun. Ain't no
yeah.
fun unless Steve gets some. And so I was like,
Oh
okay, you
my
better get
God.
in there. I,
Yes, and try he did.
mhm. And it's funny because it was such a situation that may not be instantly relatable, but
Sure.
again, that person is relatable. And we all
Yes.
have had that person of our lives, and there are some times that we have been that
And if
person.
you don't know the person in your life that's like that, you are the person.
Exactly. Well, one thing I love about it is that it's so easy to kind of play a character like that as being one-dimensional, just having kind of
Sure.
nothing going for them. But
Yeah.
when you can instill just a little bit of grace in that, I think it
Yeah.
lands so much harder.
Yeah. I think like what I wanted to do was like he's trying. Not from an annoying standpoint or just from him wanting to get his rocks off, but he wanted to just be included. He wanted someone to like kiss him instead of him having to like try and kiss them in the middle of like their situation. So, it's trying to fit in any way he can and be relatable in any way he can. That's what I at least tried to bring to it. Because I also think when things are a little earnest, that's also when I find it the funniest as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it was so he was just like, but
Yeah.
it's just like, "Oh, Steve. Okay, buddy, we got you." So, tell me about the middle. How did you, get involved with that, and, how many seasons have you been on?
we so I The middle was we filmed from 2009 to 2018. I was
Mhm.
in all 9 seasons, so I
Oh,
came
wow, very
in
good.
the Thanksgiving episode of season one. So essentially, the middle's about like a family of five, middle class, middle America, middle aged is the middle. So it's about a family of five, and I played the daughter's. Initially started out as a gay boyfriend who doesn't know he's gay yet.
It's
Everyone knows
Eden
he's
Shear.
Yes, who is so funny
She's great.
and so perfect for that role. So everyone in the world knew that my character was gay except for me and Sue.
Naturally.
And so that's kind of how it started out. But I was living in Colorado. I was still in high school in Colorado
I was gonna
when we
say, yeah.
started, and I was flying back and forth for the last 2 years of high school for filming. Then I went to college down in Orange County, which is about an hour drive from LA for those not familiar. But that was a lot easier commute than having to go to LAX.
Well, is it? I was gonna say, now wait a minute.
It was a little jarring though. I was just like telling this to my friends the other day. I was like, I can't believe that I would go film something on a Wednesday morning up at Warner Brothers in Burbank, and then drive down in the afternoon and have to take like a modern algebra test that same
Right.
like it was just how in the world I did that was I don't know how my brain was able to compartmentalize it, but I'm glad I did it. So that was and I was on the middle for all 4 years while I was in college, and then the middle even extended a little beyond college until we had our ninth and final season. But it was such a rewarding show. It was one of those. It
Mhm.
was one of those ones where we were we were on ABC at the same time as Modern Family at the same year, and so of course Modern Family had like the huge noise around it, but we had
But the
such
middle had
loyal
yeah.
fans that were following it, and when I was in it, I don't think I realized how much support we had just because we weren't on the entertainment news or at the Emmys or something like that. And so I was like, oh my gosh, right? I can't believe we still get to have this. But now that we have a little distance from it and
Mhm.
people still come up to you or you see that like how things online and stuff, they're just discovering it on HBO Max or something, that it really does have a loyal fan base. And I'm so proud of it. I'm so, so proud of
Mhm.
it.
I love that. It I wouldn't even say like a sleeper hit because the people who watched it religiously. Like you said, they were
Totally.
avid, avid fans. My niece is a huge, huge fan, and she's
Oh, that's
always
so
like,
nice.
"Stacey, you need to watch it." I'm like, "I can't do 26 months anymore. I don't have
Yeah.
the brain space. It's all out. I'm done."
Yeah.
But I would catch episodes and that kind of stuff and always enjoy it myself. And so I'm so glad that that has such a lasting staying power. But yeah, I was trying to do the math and I was like, it was on for 9 seasons. And then that was 4 years ago. And then,
Yeah.
I was like, how old were you? And it's like, you were a
I started
child.
out when I was 16. Isn't that crazy?
It's
I was
wild.
saying the other day, I was like in another interview, I was like, I went from 16 through I don't know how old I was when we finished, 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there.
Hmm.
I had so many, I mean, you change a lot during
Oh, yeah.
that period of your life. So it was nice to have the middle be kind of that nice, steady pillar
Yeah.
throughout. Like I left home to go to college and I had my first my first love and my first heartbreak, and then I moved out from
Mhm.
college onto my first apartment, and like all these really big milestones. But that to me is very scary. But what I love is consistency and the constants in my life, and that was like
Mhm.
a constant that I could really grab onto and find like a nice calming uh, kind of solace with that.
Right. It must have been a very nice kind of school as well. Did you kind of
Totally.
learn anything in particular in terms of production or with whatever you want your career goals to kind of be in the next phase?
Yeah, I mean, I think which it always flabbergasts me because when I think of the amount of at least as like for season one, so essentially they wanted I forget how old the character was supposed to be, but they wanted someone who was I think over 18 to be able to play that super young like I don't know 14-year-old just
Right.
because they didn't want to have to pay for a teenager or the limitations on hours or something like that. And yet they took a risk, and I had to have the tutor on set, and then that limits you all that kind of extra stuff that goes along with it. Uh, which I felt very grateful for. Which because then when you enter, because I didn't have any, this was my first credit too, so that was also another risk that we were taking beyond all the money aspect. They were like, let's hope he doesn't screw it up when the cameras start rolling, but learning about productions and even like what the role of a PA is versus like
Right.
a DP versus a showrunner versus a director, and even at the top level, like what are the difference between those roles? From the basic standpoint of production, but then also just from a comedy standpoint or an actor standpoint in front of film, knowing that it's not theater. And of course, you want to try and get it through all the way,
Right.
But if you mess up, we're human. That's okay. And you don't have to go all the way to the top of the scene. You can just do a pickup. So it was those
Mhm.
kinds of things, learning on the fly, that uh, people were very patient with me when it came to that. But then that's also, I think, also too, once you get the hang of that, or you start to understand your environment, your surroundings, then you can start to really flex as the actor and as the
Right.
comedian. And once you kind of get in that rhythm, then you can actually like play, um,
Mhm.
which I found exciting and fun. And once that muscle got worked, I was so excited then to then expand as a performer, and not just someone learning how to be in Hollywood.
So, how did you get the audition for the middle?
I
Because you
had
were
one.
in Denver, right? Or
Yeah,
Colorado?
Colorado, Denver, the suburbs of Denver.
Mhm.
Littleton is the name of the
Oh,
city,
yeah,
just so
I know
people.
Littleton.
You do you really?
Yeah, I'm from Nebraska originally, so we go up
Oh,
to Denver and Colorado
we're neighbors.
Springs and all that good stuff.
We're neighbors.
That's right.
I had so there was this like acting school in Denver that would every once in a while fly out agents and managers from LA, and he was like a student would go like you had like a 3-minute time slot on a Saturday to audition in front of these agents and
Wow.
managers.
Mhm.
And one of them, I hooked her. I hooked her real good. Uh, but she was fab, and so like she signed me, and then she said, "Let's bring you out for when it was still a thing. Let's bring you out for a pilot season. Let's get you an agent. Let's see what happens. Let's see you
Mhm.
actually if you like this thing." And so I got hooked with a manager and an agent, and did that pilot season. And then from those, then it would either be like depending on when the audition would come in, it was something that was, yeah, you're like maybe right for this. We would self tape it, but if there were roles that were like you can't not fly out for this, we would fly
Mhm.
out for the auditions, and I'm very thankful for mom and dad for allowing me to do something as crazy as getting an audition appointment at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday for something in the room on a Wednesday at 11 a.m. in Los Angeles.
I would just say,
Crazy.
did mom and dad fly out with you on those, or
Mom
were
would
you
fly
just
out, so we would try to wrangle it. Say we had an audition that was on a Wednesday at 5 p.m. or something crazy. We would ask to see if we could get the window of something that could be at like noon, so that we could
Mhm.
fly in, audition, and then fly out, and then I'd be back at school the next morning,
Isn't that
back in high
wild?
school. Isn't that it's so crazy? And sometimes it worked out that way. Sometimes we had to spend the night. Funny enough, when I was auditioning for the middle, that was on a Wednesday, and then they were flabbergasted that I flew out for it. They're like, "I've never like what? Like you just confirmed this last night at 5 p.m. Why are you
Right.
here?"
It's like, "We'll be
And
there."
yes, And then they said, "Don't fly home tonight. Make sure you come. We'll have you come for the callback on Thursday." So mom and I got a room at the Best Western in Studio
Mhm.
City. Doesn't exist anymore, but rest in peace. And then or did the callback audition in front of the showrunners, I should say, and I think the director. I can't remember if they were there or not. And then afterwards, they said, "Okay, thank you." And then as we were driving to LAX, they said, "Don't get on the plane. You booked it. Don't get on. Don't get on." And we were on Riverside Drive. My mom almost ran us into a tree.
Good for her. Good for her. It's like,
Yeah,
hey.
it was great, and I was able to go, which is so rare too, which now I'm realizing, again, I had no idea that that's not the most common thing in the world, but, the table read was then on that Friday, and I was able to go
Oh,
guest
wow.
as a guest star. Usually, guest stars, they don't really go to the table read unless they're, like, the guest star and they've been booked, for a week or 2 in
Mhm.
advance, which was so fun and a mind-blowing experience, like, seeing I loved Everybody Loves Raymond growing up, my whole family did, and so seeing
Uh-huh.
Patricia Heaton in the
Yeah.
flesh was incredible, and just holy crap, holy shoot.
Oh, no, you're fine with the curses on this,
Okay, good.
but yeah.
I've been holding back so many curse words, I was like, I
No,
don't
you're totally
know.
fine. So, you're a teenager and you're like, "Oh my god, I booked this guest starring role." At what point does your head start to swell a little bit, or are you just relieved?
Um, relieved one, because I think, like, it was never lost on me, uh how much money and sacrifice mom
Mhm,
and dad were making to move out to Los Angeles for a pilot season, to make those flights aren't free. We use points, but they're not always free.
mhm.
Uh so grateful. I was like, "Oh my gosh, now I can start chipping into my own career. Thank you."
Oh, yeah.
Which was nice. And then the head swelling thing, I hope I wasn't. Mom and dad were very I don't think I was, but who knows? Mom and dad were and are very good about keeping me grounded, and
Mhm.
always making sure that I realized how fortunate I am to be in the position that I am.
Right.
That's one of my favorite qualities that I have adopted from
Mhm.
mom and dad.
Well, I find that the head swelling can kinda go one of 2 ways, and
Mm,
the first way it goes is, "Oh, I'm everything, you can't tell me nothing," which is what
sure,
gets you in trouble, and then
sure.
the second way is, "Okay, I can do this. Now let's
Yeah,
see if I can try something else," "Let me try
yeah,
something new, let me," because you get the space and you get the confidence to be like, "Alright, let's see how we can push this a little bit further," and so it can be
totally.
cool.
And that still is like that feeling you're talking about right there is happening even after all these years of working. Like even after
Mhm.
booking Bros, I was like, "Oh my god, I can book a huge theatrical release
Right.
rom-com from a major studio. I didn't think that was possible. Holy
Mhm.
shit, now what else can I do?" It excites me to see what other directions I can go, or at least it's exciting to have the feeling of uh me releasing those kind of barriers that I was putting on myself for no reason whatsoever, thinking I
Mhm.
was just really like,
Right.
I just fit on a network, sitcom, and that's not necessarily true. And I just fit in this kind of particular role, and that's not necessarily true. So it's a really nice liberating feeling when you get to remove the barriers that you hammered into the
Mhm.
ground yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. I was asking, Janexa Bravo, who I adore, fantastic director, and I asked her, I said, "For you, what is the benefit of award season?
Mm,
When you get these awards, what is kind of the currency to you?" And she said, "Well, the currency for me is for every award I get, it makes it 10% easier to go into that next room and to
mm,
get that next door open and for someone to say, "Yes, we are going to trust in you to do this." And
yeah,
she said it's a kind of, mixed up mentality, but it is part of the industry is that people look at those things and they say something.
totally.
And so, yeah, when you get those barriers taken down, then you're able to really kind of expand and express yourself in new and exciting ways. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy too. Like I feel like getting into the room, it's a lot of times a catch-22 of like, well, I'm trying to get into the room to make something, but like, but you got to make something for us to say yes to
to
get you
get
in
the
the
room.
room.
Exactly.
You know, like it's always a little bit of
Nice
that
little,
catch-22. It's just
you
like, how
gotta
do we get
love
in?
it.
It's the same thing with getting into. I remember, I don't know if it's still this way, but like getting into SAG is a whole thing of like you got to book jobs, but you can't book that job unless you're in SAG. But how do I get in SAG with that? Like it's just a
You
mind
gotta
blowing.
love it. And then
Yeah.
it's like, people are whispering around on set, like, you got a SAG credit. Do you have a voucher? You got a SAG voucher? Do we get one? Who do I ask?
Right,
It's
right, right.
like, okay. So yeah, it's a grind, but once you get in, it's like it's addictive.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fantastic. So
Oh my
yeah, I
god.
love that. And of course, I don't want to get you in any trouble, so we won't go too deep into it. But I know you have another kind of Netflix project coming up,
Yeah,
hopefully next year.
yeah.
What kind of character do you play?
So it's a show called Glamorous coming out on
Mhm.
Netflix next year. It's about a makeup company and this character Marco. He is fresh graduate from college and um, is doing anything to avoid having to go work at his mom's law office. But he is the tried and true Gen Z on TikTok, trying to be a makeup influencer. And then he gets the internship of a lifetime at Glamorous Cosmetics
Mhm.
and shake shit up. That's
I
basically the
love
premise.
it.
And then I
Yes.
play I play a character. I'm in a guest star kind of towards the back end of the season. I did an episode with Joel Kim Booster and Matt Rogers.
Love love.
It's so fun. We play a group of friends.
Mhm.
I don't know if I should say anymore, but that's it. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It's very funny. It's very funny. I'll say this, and it's super super heartfelt. And
Mhm.
the surrounding cast, like the ensemble cast, is so talented and so funny. The lead, Miss Benny, fabulous. Like a wonderful, wonderful talent who is leading this show to perfection.
Do you know who the showrunner is for it?
Yeah, his name is Jordan Nardino.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so Jordan
very
wrote
nice.
for Desperate Housewives and
Yes.
Smash, and so it's you can kind of
Oh,
feel what that vibe
smash.
is going to be. I know Smash. Let me be
Oh,
your star.
just the whole time being like, "How dare they even pretend Kat McPhee? How dare they even pretend like Megan isn't in the room?"
I
I
know.
I love screaming at that show.
Oh,
Ah,
it's so
it's the
good. So, I
best.
mean, that gives you kind of the idea of the tone or what this is and the vibe of Glamorous. It's
Mhm.
very that. It's very Desperate Housewives soapy and has the fun campiness of, like Smash, and it's the perfect blend. He has the perfect voice for a series like this.
Mhm. Is it, Damon Wayans?
Yeah, so
That's
Damon
wild.
Wayans Jr. is producer. It's his company, and
Mhm.
then they found Jordan, and they developed it through CBS. It was originally a CW pilot, and then CW didn't pick it up, and they brought it to Netflix.
Which, I mean, okay, you did just fine with that one. You can't say I can say you did just fine
Right.
with that one. Oh, well, I am very excited. I can't wait. That
Thank
sounds
you.
like an absolute blast, and I love that we are getting, a more just diverse content across the board, not just,
Yeah,
racially or ethnically, but also, sexual identification wise and
yeah.
gender identity and all that good stuff. We're seeing a little bit of everyone. I love it. I'm like,
I do
bring it
too.
on.
I really like too. I think when people have inclusivity and diversity, my favorite is what's a good example? Like, did you watch Sex Lives of College Girls?
Mhm. Yep.
I loved that show. I think
Yeah.
that, like, to me, when I think when inclusivity is done really, really well, it's not that they're bringing everyone gets a story in this one series. It's let's take these few underrepresented voices, really flesh out the characters, and let's tell
Exactly.
their story. And that's when I think uh, when diversity is told really, really well. Like to me, with those four leads, I really thought it was done well. it wasn't like you just understood their background once they had the episode where the parents came to town, and you can
Right.
see why and how they grew up. How and why they grew up was from the get-go, and then they just were able to double down when the parents came. So I don't
Mhm.
know, for something like that, I thought that was done super, super well because I understood who they were and why they were that way from the get-go, and then also seeing it kind of parallel with the parents. It wasn't like they added that particular nuance or storyline or POV
Exactly.
when they needed to in episode 4. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it wasn't like a sweeps kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
antic. I know. Like, do we have sweeps anymore? I
Right.
don't
Does
know, but
that exist?
exactly. Oh my God. I always feel like I'm dating myself every year, something new or
Yeah.
different kind of habit. Because you mentioned earlier, like pilot season or how it, used to be. And I was like, is there pilot season anymore? And I'm sure there's like a smaller version of it, but it
Yeah,
still
there
just
totally
seems
is.
so abstract
It
now
just yeah,
to
because it
these
feels
kids.
like pilots. I mean, the network still network. They still do their
Yeah,
thing. They do a lot of off cycle stuff, so that's why it's watered down a little
exactly.
bit, at least from an
Hmm.
audition standpoint. And I'm sure from like a developmental standpoint, it's the same way. But then when that volume is like cranked down a little bit, and then you have the streaming services that follow no
Right.
pattern, follow no season, so it kind of all levels out a little bit. So there's not really as much of like a spike in that January, February, March, kind of area.
Hmm. There was a documentary called The Hollywood Complex. I know that's not what it's called because I think that's the series that
Mm.
is based on the same hotel. But
Oh,
it was a hotel where families used to fly their kids in for pilot season, and it
yes.
followed different families and
Sure.
just the ways that they operated and how it affected these kids kind of coming back every year, and those who struck gold, but then those who struck out as
Yeah,
well. And it was such an interesting thing. But now it's like, wow, it's just
yeah.
so crazy that now the audition process is like TikTok and, and
Totally. And like,
Instagram and that kind of thing.
what did I just see? I forget what studio. Some studio is doing some sort of like development creator boot camp intensive sort of thing for social media influencers
Yeah.
because I mean, they're trying to tap into their version of storytelling, and they're like, okay, let's mine you. And that's that would have been mind blowing 10 years ago. But
Oh,
when I read the deadline article, I was like, that makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
it's a different way of doing it, but it makes sense.
I was
They're
on
what's hot right now.
I was on Twitter and there was this guy and he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this makeup tutorial on Pinterest." And I was like, "Oh, Pinterest." I was like,
It's still going strong on my mom's desktop. My mom
"What?"
loves Pinterest.
Exactly. That is for I was like, "This is not your demographic, Pinterest. I need you to go back and go back to where your milk is." So
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
I said, "All right, I see you, Pinterest." So now it is time to go into our little referrals discussion kind of section of the show. So I'm super
Great,
excited.
great,
I'm really excited. The first thing we're going to talk about is what is the last thing that you watched, and we'll go ahead and start with we'll almost start with you. Of course, the one thing that doesn't upload, right? But we're gonna get it. We're gonna
It's the
get
anticipation.
it.
We're building suspense.
I know, right? Da, da, da. Oh, come on. Up, it's uploading. Oh, there we go. All right. So, what was the last thing that you watched?
The last thing I watched was, well, still watching it, is I'm watching The Watcher.
Wee.
Yes. Uh, I like the first episode. I love the first episode. It built suspense. I think what I'm nervous about is that correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the real case is solved. So I'm
Right.
wondering how they're going to wrap up the series. And that's what's kind of keeping me like a little on pins and needles because I hate something that doesn't get tied up in a bow. I'm hoping they just make up a watcher and that's the person. But I don't know. It's Ryan Murphy, and so he is always very good at like zigging when you
Mhm.
think he's gonna zag. And so I'm very much into where the watcher is going.
I won't give anything away.
Mhm.
I know that I absolutely loved it. I
Yeah.
had a great time all the way through. I will say the original case is still unsolved,
Right.
and there is reference to that, but I will say that I wasn't frustrated at the end
Okay.
by any
Oh,
means. Like, yeah,
just
so
give me a sigh of
I think
relief.
you'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
So
check
I
in
just
tomorrow after I blow through the next 6 episodes.
There you go. Oh my God. I just put it on and I was trying to do like some little work in between. And then the
Yeah.
whole time I was just like, okay, wait a
Yeah.
minute. Why is this? Why is that? And
I
of
love
course,
it.
Richard Kind, Margaret Martindale, just
Mhm.
Jennifer Coolidge, just like
Yes.
so much talent. Absolutely. And of course, Bobby C. You gotta
Yeah.
love
I think
him.
also what I was not surprised, but I wasn't expecting the chemistry that Naomi Watts and Bobby had right from the get go.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever's going on right there, I'm into that.
I loved it. Yes,
Yeah.
I thought they did such a good job. And of course, like Mia Farrow is in it, and there are a few
Yes. Which
different
I didn't
like
realize until she popped up on screen, and I was like, that. Uh,
I know. I was so excited. I was like, okay, Ryan Murphy,
yeah.
keeping our iconic actresses alive. I love
Yes.
it. In word, getting that bread.
Yes.
So, the last thing I watched was at a special Cinespia screening at the Masonic Lodge over at Hollywood Forever. It
Yeah.
was My Best Friend's Exorcism by
Oh, I don't
Prime
know that. What is
Video.
that?
It is basically it's these two best friends. One of them is going to be moving at either after the summer or as the summer comes on,
Mhm.
and one girl is kind of, she's at school on scholarship and
Mm.
she's got acne on her face. So, just all that stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, ugly.
Very
And,
teenage.
you know, and so of course, they find this haunted house and one of them wants to go and explore and
Mm.
shenanigans ensue,
Sure.
thus leading to the need for an exorcism.
Okay.
And it
Don't you
is,
just hate when shenanigans lead to an
you know,
exorcism?
right?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's
It's
like,
always
come
the
on,
worst shenanigans to me.
of all the things to lead to tonight. So, what I liked about it is it really did give me kind of like Stranger Things vibes. It's kind of set
Ooh.
in the mid 80s,
Okay.
early mid 80s. And there was just, it was lighthearted, it was fun, but also, scary in its way and
Yeah.
very just a nice, fun watch, which I was very, very happy about. I had a good time. It was
I
very,
guess
very
that sounds
sweet.
like a fun one to see in the cemetery.
Exactly,
Yeah, that's like
exactly.
the perfect thing to see there at that venue.
Yeah, but then I was like, well, so thankfully we were actually in the lodge. We weren't on the lawn for this
Gotcha,
one,
gotcha.
and
You
I
weren't
was
surrounded
okay
by
with that.
dead bodies. Got it.
I was okay with that. It's funny because when you tell people about Hollywood Forever that aren't from LA or this part of California, they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like what? Because I was that person. I was like,
Right.
"Absolutely not." I'm like,
Yeah.
I am way too superstitious for this. And I got a an assignment to do a red carpet for Outfest, and
Oh,
the opener was there is everybody's talking about Jamie.
yeah.
And so I was like, all right, here we go. Let's see, like what are we gonna do? And it was delightful. Had a great
Amazing.
time. And so I've been back there like four more times and I'm trying to take all these people. And so all my little friends come from out of town. They're like,
Oh,
you're
fun.
going where now?
Yeah.
And I'm like, just come.
You
Just
have to
come.
trust me. You have to trust me. You know you gotta
Exactly.
say it.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a very good time. I highly recommend it.
Next time you have friends coming to town, you said I can either shove kombucha down your throat or you can come to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Exactly.
You're getting
Both
the
will
LA
happen.
experience one way or the other, so choose your
Exactly. It's either this or
route.
like vegan meatballs, one or the
Yeah.
other. You decide. So, the next one is a show or movie that you've just discovered.
Mm. And mine was Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yay.
I loved it. Also, Lee Pace. Let's just take a moment to appreciate
Ah,
that human being. Uh, I loved it. I don't know what again. It was one of the. I was. I don't think it's. It was. I don't know what to expect. I had no idea
mhm.
that it had any type of murder involved. I didn't know that it was Everyone was going to
I
funny.
love that you were just like play.
Play. Everyone's been talking about it. I was like, play. Didn't read the synopsis, just play. But the funny thing is, as I was watching it with a couple friends. Uh, did you ever play in the middle of the pandemic Among Us? It was
Yes.
this okay, so it's a real life version of that where
Oh
someone's
wow.
the fake killer, and then you have to if someone comes across the body that they killed, you yell bodies, 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 and then
Oh my
or just like you in Among Us, you have to report it, and then you have to decide, you have to like deliberate who's the murderer, and then
hmm
real murders start to happen.
Of course.
It was
I
great, and
love
I'm
it.
gonna forget her name, but I want it. She is so funny. I think it's Rachel Sennett. Rachel Sennett, who played the
Yes.
girl named Alex, she is whoa, she is funny. To me,
hmm
like it's very modern and
Dry.
dry and like
Yeah, there's like a satire, very
yeah, very
satirical.
satire. And my favorite thing is like at least with comedy, I'm rewatching Modern Family as like the background show, and I just need a nice laugh. And to me,
hmm
Ed O'Neill is so funny to me because he's so dry. The jokes are never hit like you're trying to make the audience laugh. They're just said in the way that
hmm
the character would say it, and that's how this Rachel Sennett and this character did every single line of hers, and it made me crack up. I thought it was so funny whenever she opened her mouth.
She is a Shiva baby.
Yeah.
And so that was a very big I was like, "I know this name." I had to look it up
Yes.
real quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's very funny. I
Yeah.
adore her. I adore Amandla,
Yes,
and,
which I didn't realize too, she's, a little rock star. I didn't realize she was
yeah.
producing it too.
Oh, yeah. She
Yeah,
has been doing a lot of stuff behind the camera. She has a very interesting story, and I'm really waiting for her autobiography
yeah.
because she could make one. She was cast as Rue,
I mean,
and
true, yeah,
right, even just the flack that she received just being a person of color in that role,
yeah.
despite even how it was described in the books, was wild. And
I
she
forgot that, and now that you say that, now I remember all of that.
Mhm. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
And then, later when she came out, she was like, "I got more flack for being rude than I did for being queer." She was like,
like,
I don't understand."
yeah,
And so, yeah, it's wild, but, I adore her, and I cannot she's got some plans up her sleeve, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she comes out with.
yeah. She very much excites me as a not just a performer, but just a person and a voice in Hollywood.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, my thing that I last thing I watched was Dragula by the Boulet
Mhm.
brothers.
I
So
love
they
it.
had their season of 5, the Titan season
Yeah,
premiered last night at the Montalban, and it was so fun. I love it because it's kind of like an anti RuPaul's Drag Race. Like RuPaul's
yep,
Drag Race is about beauty and being together and being clean, and then this one's about being like dirty and nasty and
yes.
scary and horror, and it was so fun. We
It is
had a
fun.
really great time, and of course, they ain't afraid to get shady, they ain't afraid to
No.
drop the tea, and it's just, ah, it's like my shady heart was just like, yes, beating
Yeah.
so loud and so
Oh my god,
happily.
now you're making me a little sad. Usually every Saturday, like the Saturday of Halloween weekend, the Boulet Brothers always put on this really nice big
It's
venue
Friday.
party. And this is the first
Mhm.
year in years that I haven't gone. And now that you put that up, I was like, maybe I need to get a ticket to that.
I'm about to
That's fun.
say, I got a ticket. We can talk afterwards. I got an extra
Yes, okay,
ticket. So
okay.
I grabbed a
Um
bunch. I was like, we got to go. So I'm gonna get a bunch of people together. We're gonna get all dolled up.
oh
It's gonna be
yes.
very fun. Good times.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
They are it was so nice. And of course they were just like absolute dolls. So it's like
Oh
the
good.
whited out eyes and they're like, "Hi honey, how are you?" And I'm like,
It's always that. It always just like the when people are like dragged out in their scariest getup, and then it's just always it never ceases to like come out
Southern
when you laugh, and they just
hospitality.
talk normally, and they're just kikiing with you, and but they
Yes.
just look horrifying.
It's crazy. I love it. It was good
Yeah.
times. So we go on to one of my favorite cues is your first movie or TV crush.
My heart just started
Let's
to
get
race again.
into it. And wait, did it? Oh, okay. I was like, why do I keep like missing things? They keep getting bounced off the end. And I
Uh,
was like, you ain't gonna do my man's like this. So yours, Barack, was Mr. Go ahead. Say
Jeremy
something.
Sumpter.
Oh,
Hope as Peter Pan, Peter Pan. My little like 9, 10-year-old self was like, he's so cute. I love
mhm,
him. Uh oh my gosh, I was in love at like I think I was 10 or 9 or 10 when that movie came out. And then get this, speaking of Halloween, this was years ago, maybe 5 years ago.
mhm.
I was at a house party and so was Jeremy Sumpter.
Oh.
And my drunk ass went up to him and was like, I loved you as a kid. I was like, you're my gay awakening. He probably doesn't remember it, and I barely remember it, but for very different reasons.
Yeah. He's like, I blocked it out, but that was probably
Yeah, yeah,
just think
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
It was the best moment of his life,
Oh
I'm
my god, it
sure.
like was one of
It's
those full
amazing.
circle. How often do you get to tell your like your young like little like TV crush, movie crush that like they were your crush? And I said, I can't not do this.
Mhm. I went to TIFF this year and I got to meet Edward Norton. And
Oh
I was so in love with him. I loved Primal Fear. Like,
yes.
I rewatched it constantly, and I was telling him, I was like, "Oh my god, I watched that movie. I burnt out the VHS. Like, I watched it so much." And he was like, "Oh, you are way too young to have seen that movie." And I was like, "Thank you."
Thank you
I was
so
like,
much. Oh
I was
my
like,
gosh.
"They say
You're
never
just
to
like
meet your heroes, but
you're
they
like
were
my skincare
wrong."
routine is working. Thank you.
Exactly. The ring finger. Yes, yes.
Right.
Oh, it was beautiful. So I was like, okay, I'm
Oh,
good. I'm good
that
now.
feels good. It feels so good. And
My
isn't that also a good feeling, regardless of even if they're a crush or not, but just like someone you
yeah,
admire or like or you are such a fan of, and they turn out to be so cool and
exactly.
so giving with their time, and just just a simple thank you and just an acknowledgement and look you in the eye. There's no better
Right.
feeling than that to me. I don't know what it is. It's just when I see someone and I, even if it's brief, I just want to say I appreciate, I love. I have no
Hmm.
shame when it comes up to it. I know how to read a situation, but
Right.
if the situation calls for itself and I can go up and say thank you, and then they're so generous and nice and kind, there's no
Hmm.
better feeling in the world than that. You know what I mean?
Yes. I love it. It's
Yeah.
just it's a interesting kind of dichotomy because on one hand, it's the dog howling at the moon situation where it's like dog can howl at the moon, but if the moon howls back, there's a problem.
Well,
You're like, ooh,
yeah.
that's different. And
Right.
so it's like there's one of them, and there are hundreds, thousands of
Totally.
us, and we're like, where are you? They're like, okay.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
nice to get that, I'm sure, but I know that there are times where it can kind of lean into overwhelming. And so when you
Totally.
can kind of find that little middle ground, I think it
Who
makes it
was
worth
your
it.
first when you moved to LA? Who was your first like celebrity sighting out in the wild?
Oh
Do you
my.
remember? I have a very vivid memory of mine.
I am terrible with people in the wild because I
Mhm.
never recognize anyone until they're either like right here
Right.
or if I'm expecting to see them. And
Once they put on a Dodgers hat and go to pick up a Starbucks order, they are
if
you
they
can
have sunglasses, I don't know her. I don't know her.
right.
Or any I used to go to Rutgers all the time, and you see like the entire cast of RuPaul's Drag Race. So I'm like,
Yep.
and we'd like, oh girl, that was Simone, and I was just like, it's like I don't know,
Oh
but
my
I think
god.
I went to the Outfest Legacy. Oh wait, no, I went to the Outlander season 5 premiere.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. It was like such a long shot. I was like, "What's going on here tonight?" Because people were like lined up outside the Palladium,
Oh yes.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's the Outlander, season 5." And I was like, "Oh, are there any tickets left?" Me being just fresh off the boat, just
Right.
thinking I could walk up and get in. Lo
Right.
and behold, I walked up, I
You
got
walked
in.
up and you got
It
in.
was crazy.
You ask
It's
for what you want. You like you
exactly
just gotta ask.
closed mouths don't get fed.
There you
Exactly.
go.
I was up in the, balcony area, and the cast was, like, coming in, and I saw, Sam Heughan, and I was like,
Oh,
"Ah!" And then he turned around, I was like, "Ah!"
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, "Hey," and I got like all the videos. So yeah, that was very fun.
Oh, amazing. How
What
fun
was
is that?
yours?
Mine, when I came out for that pilot season,
Mhm.
he's a celebrity to me. Marcellus, he was on Big Brother, one of the original seasons, on
I
Hollywood
love
Boulevard, and my
it.
mom and I were like, "Oh my god, you're Marcellus from Big Brother." So we saw him at like we were taking pictures of the Hollywood stars because what else do you do when you're there for pilot season?
You're
And
right.
Marcellus walked by. So that was my first celebrity sighting, but like actor that is probably recognized by everyone across America was I can't remember. I think it was debating the two, but I think it was Helen Hunt at a
Oh,
Starbucks.
wow.
Yes, and I
Oh, wow.
love Twister. It's one of my favorite movies. I
Oh,
I didn't say
yes.
hi, but I was like, that's Helen Hunt, and that's Helen Hunt with her kid. Okay, okay, and you gotta move on.
Yep. Well, when I first got here, of course, one of my things that I always do is, like, if I'm in a brand new city, I'll do, like, a DoorDash, Uber Eats, drive for something
Yeah,
like that so I can kinda start learning the streets and, learning kinda what's around and then hopefully get some cash on the side because the
absolutely.
rent is high.
Yes.
And I was in, Beverly Hills, and I was at some crazy stop, and there was a woman in a minivan, and she had, like, this minivan, there were a bunch of kids inside, and I was just kinda, drive through, and I was looking, I was like, "Huh, she looked like Angelina Jolie." And I was just like, "Doop, doop, doop," and then I, like, hit my brake. I was like, "Arr!" And I was like, "That was Angelina Jolie."
Oh
I was
my
just like, "Oh my
gosh.
god." And I was like, "Okay, Sadie, just keep going, keep going." And then the next day, I saw some, picture of her, like, in a park that was nearby, and I was
Nearby.
like, "Oh,
Uh, she's my favorite
Angelina."
actress. She's my 100% my all-time
I
favorite actress.
adore I adore that my
Me too.
Angies are Angelina Jolie and Angela Bassett. Those
Oh, there you
2.
go. Those are 2 good
Oh,
Angies.
I love it. I love it. So, yeah, I love her. She since Gia, like,
Yeah.
the very beginning, she's
Yes.
amazing.
Oh, so
Everything.
good.
And, oh, my crush was the iconic Zach Morris.
Oh,
Oh.
Zach
I
Morris.
know, right? I was like, "Do I have a thing for blondes?" Because I was like, I used to really like Timmy from Lassie, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, poor little helpless boy," and then you get Zach, and he's just a smarmy
Oh,
little preppy kid, and I'm like,
you were a Zach
"Mm,
Morris. I was an
no."
AC Slater. AC
Were
Slater
you?
was oh, yes. I owned
Yep.
I all the episodes of, Saved by the Bell on DVD growing
Oh,
up.
yeah.
I
The
love it.
oh, Good Morning, Miss Bliss, Saved by the
Yes!
Bell, The New Class, College Years,
Yeah, all of
and
them.
then at the edge
Every
of
iteration.
tomorrow. Yes, I loved it. And California Dreams, which wasn't technically Saved by the Bell, but I folded
Right.
in there just
Yeah,
because, nostalgia's sake.
of course.
But yes, I loved Saved by the Bell.
The
Oh,
giant ass cell phones that they had, that they
oh
would
my
pull out
God, it's
with
so
the
good.
antenna.
We're going to talk a little bit about more about that with the next question, but we'll start with yours first. The next one is, what is a show or movie that was canceled too soon?
Okay, I
And
gotta say, I was
mhm.
surprised. Okay, so on Generation on HBO Max, I'm so surprised it only lasted a season. And funny enough, speaking of Bodies, 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 one of the actresses from Generation is in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Mhm.
But I loved it. I don't know. For me, uh, it felt very a story about Gen Z that was from a Gen Z perspective. Uh,
Mhm.
to me, it had that. I always love a little satire, a little humor. When I knew I was hooked, I think it was the second episode, and I was very like, it's an episode about a school shooting, but it was like a lockdown essentially. And there's this girl who's on TikTok, the character, and she's like, "Hi, there's a school shooting. I'm so scared." And she turns off the record button, and she's fine as she's like editing and posting it to post onto TikTok. And I said, "That is this generation." It
Exactly.
just it hit me in the funny bone in a certain way that the show hasn't hit me in a very long time. It was absurd and funny, and I also think Justice Smith, who's the lead of it, is amazing. I mean, the last thing I saw him in was Jurassic World, and he plays this super nerdy, like closed off kid. And then to see him play this like queer, sassy, wears nail polish, gives no fucks. but like was vulnerable and all that. I was like, oh my god, this actor is holy shit. I loved
I
it.
want I want Justice for Justice Smith.
Yeah,
Justice
justice
Smith
for justice. Let's
for
make the sign.
It's crazy because he is so good. He is
He's so
such a
good.
great actor. He started Roll Bounce, which I adored, which was a one-season Netflix hit, and I
I
was
didn't
just
even, I
like,
don't even think I know that. What is it?
oh, it was, like, set in the '70s, and it was basically about the creation of hip hop,
Okay.
and it was about him, trying to provide for his family and falling in love, but also discovering this new type of sound, this new type of music, and
Mm,
resolving things in that way rather than violence. Oh, it was
yeah,
so, so cute. Then, of course, we had Captain Pikachu, which a
of
lot of people try
course.
to dog out, but I'm like, it was legitimately good for,
I
like, the type
enjoyed
of
it.
movie it was. It was good
Of course.
times. And then, it's like I love seeing him in Jurassic World, and I really was expect hoping good things for Generation. I think what happened with Generation is euphoria fatigue. I think
Totally.
people thought that it was going to be another Euphoria, and they're like, "We like the one we got,
Totally.
and we can't handle more than that." And
Totally.
so I think that the marketing kind of skewed it that way instead of really kind of looking at the humor a little bit more
Yeah.
and the kind of heart of it. And so I just want Justice Smith to have every good thing, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to see what he does next. We don't have too many queer, like, actors of color, especially in that age range,
Absolutely.
and so it's like, I wanna see those people lifted up and
Yeah.
doing what they do best,
And he's
and
got the
he's
goods. He's
fantastic.
got the talent. He's got it all.
Mhm.
And I just he
Exactly.
needs they just need to cast him in anything and everything.
Mhm. Exactly. I'm waiting for that next thing. So, yeah, that was a great show, gone too soon. Mine, and this is connected a little bit to my Zach Morris one, is the Saved by the Bell reboot
There
on
you go.
Peacock. When I tell you that show is fantastic,
I
it
loved it.
is so good. I brought my little friend out from Nebraska, and I was like, "Girl, you got to watch this reboot." Just and she was
Yeah.
like, "Well, I didn't really watch the original all that much." I was like, "Doesn't matter. Watch the
No.
reboot." She
Yeah.
watched it. She was like, "Oh my god, this is so good!" Like it's funny, it's silly,
Mhm.
and all of the characters are very tongue in cheek.
Yep.
They are very self-referential. AC Slater, Mario Lopez is fantastic. He's
Yes.
one of the main cast, and he's an absolute gem. Jesse Spano, Miss Elizabeth Berkley, Lauren, and we get lots of cameos from Mark Paul Gosselaar and Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Yeah.
And of course, their kids go to the school. The kid who plays Mac Morris, his name is Mitchell Hoog, and that his timing, I just die. And then, of course, the lovely Josie Toda,
Oh my
who,
gosh. Yes.
yes, trans actress. I, uh,
So funny. So, so
She's
funny.
just she's so and just biting in those one-liners,
Yep.
and I don't remember the, kid who plays, Jamie. I believe his name might be Brock. I'll have to look it up, but
Yeah.
he's just got this heart and this kind of inner thing, and all the characters are spot on. All of the jokes are great, and even the main girl, Haskiri Gonzalez, I believe it is. She has her mom only lets her have one of the like '80s phones with the big
Oh,
thing, and
yes.
she's like, "'Cause you can't take nudie pictures on this." And
It's
so
so good.
the only link she has to social media is a 800 number that describes Instagram posts for old people, and
It
it's
just
like,
describes them.
your friend is wearing a new vest and not quite pulling it off.
It's
It
so
was
funny.
so good, and
Have you seen the other two?
yes,
Oh my gosh,
love
and
the other
Josie had
2.
a guest star spot in the other two, and I thought it was so
Yes.
funny when they go to the
Oh my
school
god.
dance, and Josie is
Yes.
obsessed with Carrie and
Yep.
is so jealous when Carrie starts liking the teacher or whoever it is. I thought Josie was so funny in that too.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I
she's
love
just
her.
great.
And, that's the one interesting thing about the show. So, it was on for 2 seasons
Hmm.
and had great ratings, brought a lot of new subscribers, and then out of the blue canceled. I have my thoughts, which
Sure.
I've been told to keep to myself, but, um, I'm always like, "Oh, well, maybe another network will get it or pick it up," and the good and bad of it is that these kids are staying booked and busy.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
so if they tried to get them together now, it's like you probably would need another group of kids,
Yeah.
but I'm just like so I'm happy for them on that front, but God, that show was so good. And
Yeah.
so it's good even on the rewatch, y'all. Watch
Um,
it. It's great.
I want to see. I have not watched it yet, but it's because I think what I liked about the Saved by the Bell, the new generation, was that they had nods to the original, but they also made it its own show, which I think
Right.
is important, right? Instead of
Mhm.
like trying to do like a copy and paste. So I have not seen. I forget even what the title is, but The Fresh Prince.
Oh yeah, Bel Air.
Bel-Air,
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
Woo!
Everyone loves it, right? Did you like
It's
it?
great.
Okay,
Yes.
so I because I feel like they kind of did the same. It's like a fully different show, different tone, right?
It's definitely different genre. It's
Okay,
definitely drama.
yeah.
And oh man, Carlton's got a drug habit. They go
Okay,
through. They put
okay,
them through, but it is so, so good.
okay.
And so yes, that's
That's on
another
my
one.
list. Yeah.
And so far I believe it did get renewed for a second season. So I
Hmm,
think they're working on that now
love
and
it.
hopefully that will be out soon. But yes,
I will do
definitely
my
one I
homework
recommend.
before season two then.
Yeah, that one is a little more like, you gotta put it on, you gotta pay attention, and
Sure,
it's
sure.
beautiful to look at, so I will say that it's gorgeously shot. Whoever the
Love it.
cinematographer is doing work,
Doing some
but,
work.
Morgan really put together, like, a fantastic show. So, yes, that's a
Nice.
great one.
Okay, I'll bump it to the top of my list.
Yay! Well, I am so, so happy that you came to hang
This was
with
so
me
fun. I love
today,
chit chatting about this stuff.
right? Isn't it so fun? I love it, and, you were absolutely fantastic. I would like to know, tell the people where we can find you online, where we can follow your exploits.
All the handles are just at Brock Ciarlelli.
Mhm.
Instagram's where I live the most, and I have a TikTok, but I just scroll. I don't make them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just scroll. I don't make them. But Twitter and Instagram, I'm on there.
that's my goal. I need to find, like, a 12-year-old and just give him a 20 and be like,
Yeah, who
"Look,
can tell me how to edit and
make some" no,
access?
not tell me, do
Yeah.
it. I will give you access to the pictures and the vids. You just do it for me.
uh,
These kids are they get it, and I'm
we
I'm
get
like
it.
pressing stuff, and it's like, "Oh, dear, you're too old for this." And I'm just like, "Fine. Okay, I give up. I
Uh,
concede." I absolutely love it. Well, thank you again so much for coming on.
thank
Of course, if
you.
you want to see more interviews with lovely celebs and et cetera, check out Hollywood Approved on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube. You, of course, can find me at Sticky Keys, STICKYKEYS, on both Twitter and Instagram. And I think that's it. I
Amazing.
think we're good to go. But yes, I can't wait to see you next year in Glamorous. We're going to keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully, once we get closer, we'll bring you back on and chat some more.
Love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Brock. And thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.